Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thanks for coming to watch. So, I got you guys an update on some pretty active things that are really going to get going across the United States as we get into our Thanksgiving weekend. We're going to be talking about a few very, very big and large storm systems in general that are going to be stretching across the pretty much all of the United States. And this is really going to cause some big delays in travel. This is really going to cause some mayhem. But starting off here, we already do have a pretty good trough that's kind of sweeping across the eastern U.S., the Appalachian Mountain region. This is pushing off to the east. This will make its way offshore as soon as really tomorrow afternoon. But this is bringing some persistent showers, thunderstorms to the mountainous regions here of Kentucky, the West Virginia, up into PA, and then the interior Northeast. That's going to bring more rain to the I-95 corridor as we get into this weekend. All right, and then we also do have a chance for development in the tropical Atlantic. You can see down here. Let me move my screen here. You can see down here we do have a disturbance that's right now located right over Jamaica, really, and then going up towards the Bahamas. We have a chance for a tropical storm. Very rare though to see it this late. All right, but we are also going to be seeing a little bit of a pattern flip here. We right now, what we've been having is we're not completely flat right now. All right, but we were dealing with a flat ridge, which is basically where the GFS the jet stream has limited dips and bumps here, and so that's what we call a flat ridge. But what we're going to see is we're going to start to see some more Arctic blasts starting to move down from Canada into the northwest, and so we're really going to have to watch out for some really intense cold air, and we'll talk about that in a moment. So, going over to our alerts, you can see we don't really have much going on. We'll start out here in the west. We do have some scattered winter weather advisories. You can see here in the purples, going out for the Sierras out there in California, going up towards Washington, Oregon State. Okay, and we do have some winter storm watches going out for Utah, a good stripe of some counties out there in that winter storm watch, and then we've got some wind advisories up there into Nevada, into southwestern Idaho. We really got to watch out for some gusty winds. It's definitely going to also enhance the potential for some fire spread. I mean, I don't think it's going to be that bad today, but you definitely don't want to be messing with anything flammable, especially when you're out in the wild, because even though it really sounds pretty ridiculous to be able to start a huge wildfire, well, it turns out that 90% of wildfires are actually caused because of humans. Just something to throw at you guys right now. We could also see we got a special weather statement, or it looks like we got a special weather statement going out for portions of central Virginia. This might be a fire weather watch. It really, these two shades here look identical, so it's pretty hard to tell. Otherwise, doesn't look like we've got any dilemma other than that. So we go over to the GFS. Okay, so we're going to be breaking down really what could be our upcoming pattern and what are we going to be dealing with our winter storms. Let me tell you guys, the models have been ridiculously, off while trying to get this get this figured out. Okay, the models are really struggling right now, and we're seeing a lot of different scenarios pretty much every day. Some days we see a little bit of a worse scenario. Some days we see better. Sometimes we see a worst case scenario. We really get a lot of everything. Okay, and so this is just going to be the 18Z and 12. We're going to be looking at the 18Z and 12Z GFS from today and yesterday, because I think these model run times have really been the most accurate, other than the OZ and the 6Z have been pretty much follow-ups or repeats, I guess you could say, of the 18Z and sometimes the 12Z. So that's why I'm just showing the 18Z and 12Z for now. So looking at the latest GFS that just came out, you can see we got our trough here swinging by in the east. Here's our tropical disturbance. All right, we'll talk about that later. You can see that does actually become a pretty major storm system. We'll talk about that towards the end of the video, but what happens behind it? Well, we get a pretty good dip in the jet stream right here, going down and swinging. This is a pretty good cold front swinging down. It's pushing this trough out of the way. A lot of ridging up here in the west. A big piece of energy is gonna move onshore from the west. We're really, you could say that we actually are undergoing a slight atmospheric river. This is a very weak atmospheric river, but we are actually in one, and so that's why we're getting a lot of these storm systems moving over the west. Well, what we do see here is we actually do see this isn't a strong storm system in general, but we do see that this piece of energy, it's able to move all the way throughout all the way towards the central U.S. So this is midway through the country, and it's still got its own low pressure. It's still looking okay. Okay, it's still pretty organized. It just doesn't have that much strength. Okay, and so we gotta watch this, because whenever we get something like this, whenever we get especially in November, storm system that makes it all the way from the west coast to the central U.S. and it's still got a little bit of stamina going, that's when we really got to pay attention and make sure that we're not going to be dealing with anything that could really be concerning. So we'll keep this going here. Remember that we are 66 hours out, so this is not a very long. This is just a few days in the future. This is not a long time in the future. Okay, so we're waking up on Monday, okay, and we have a pretty good storm system moving over the now about to enter the Midwest, moving over the central U.S. So we have pretty good confidence, by the way, guys, in this in this storm system, because this is only 84 hours out. So this is most likely not going to change dramatically. So this will pretty much look like really what we're going to see. But this definitely will have at least some slight changes. But you can see we're starting to get a little bit of a shield of rain, sleet, snow, and just a nasty wintry mix showing up here in the places like southern PA. This could actually impact Pennsylvania Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, but with actually some snow here. Because if this snow actually makes its way farther south, really also depending on this cold front that's actually, you can see it's trying to move down. I'll show you guys this format here. So this is the jet stream right now. This cold front, it's trying to push down on this warm front, but this ridge here, this is, I should have said ridge here. This ridge, you're getting a lot of moisture surging up in front of it. That's why we see this like pressurized area. Okay, and that actually could be leading to not only snow and precipitation, but maybe a slight like overnight severe weather threat. That's pretty much out of the blue, but I'm just thinking that that's possible because these are two very, very strong air masses colliding with each other, and so that's pretty much your setup for this storm system. Okay, so that's why you don't see like a lot of this cold air pushing up against this, literally on the backside until the storm finally makes it all the way to the East Coast. That's when this warm front the cold front gives out, and then it's forced to follow behind it and push it out of the way. That's pretty much what we got going on here. But you can see we've got snow and frozen precipitation making its way as far south as northern New Jersey. New York City, you guys are right there. So it's really tough to tell. Let's zoom in here, look at the Northeast here. Yeah, you guys are right there. Even parts of northeastern New Jersey still missing out on that snow, but it's going to be very close. And this doesn't have, it's got a few days to change, but it really doesn't look like it's going to change that much because this is, only a few days out. But we see a pretty big storm system, 1,009 millibars. We got a lot of rainfall falling over the southeast, the eastern seaboard in general. But if you go up north into the Catskills, that region in upstate New York, you can definitely see a lot more snow. With that, we're talking a few inches with maybe some backside rain that could actually spoil it, that could melt it away. But on the south side of this, a lot of rainfall could start to expand, and we could actually get a second round of rainfall. So that's going to be an impactful system. That's certainly going to impact travel, okay? And so I believe that this is Thanksgiving right here. I'm sorry, guys. I actually don't know exactly what day Thanksgiving is, but I know it's either the 23rd or the 24th, so we'll just take this for an example. Okay, so this is Thursday to Friday. What we're going to be talking about? Well, this ridge, it's starting to flat out. It's starting to get flat out a little bit. That's going to make the weather back to boring. But we have a pretty good piece of energy moving over in the northwest. A slight ridge going on here, just a slight ridging right here. You can see that, it looks like we are dealing with some Pacific moisture getting pulled up into the system, but it really, you don't see that much of a ridge because this has a long way to go. It's too far up north. If this was farther south, I think we'd be dealing with a little bit of a more dangerous scenario for the central U.S. when it comes to severe weather, okay? But we do also have another little system down here in the south that looks like it could get going, okay? This is going to be associated with that moisture that's left over down here in the Gulf of Mexico. That powers into the system. That could really get it going with maybe another potential severe weather event, but for the southeast this time, because we were talking about the south central U.S. a little bit. Well, look at this. Look, we'll backtrack here. Right there, this is the hour where you really see that flash of red, orange, and yellow from the GFS. That could signify a severe weather event. I don't want to say an outbreak because we really have no good idea of how strong this could be. Excuse me, but that's going to be round one. We go to round two. This is it right here. Pretty big system moving over the southeast. What does this do? Well, will it? The question is right here. We're getting into the 25th. This is Saturday. Will this get stronger and stronger to the point where this is actually a very big system? We already have a really big system on our hands, really going all the way up from the Dakotas with snow down to the southeast. But how strong will it get is the big question. A lot of cold air moving down from the north, really coating and blanketing all of the northern U.S. in that cold air. But this moves into the northeast, gets a little weaker, but man, we get a lot of snow and wintry precipitation, a big wintry mix out there in the northeast. Still hanging on to rain in southern New England and areas farther south, but this is a lot of snow showing up here on the backside, especially up here to New Hampshire, especially southern New Hampshire, southern Vermont. Okay, and there are a lot of rain out there in the Boston area. This is 210 hours out. Okay, this is a pretty long time to go here. This is 7 days out. So this is, this is 6 days out. So this is pretty much, you could say this is a week out. Actually, yeah, I guess this is like back here. I guess this is around a week out here. So we have 210 hours out. It's got a long time to change and develop and stuff. So we'll see a lot of big changes with this. But this is just one of many big signals coming up from the GFS, which is pretty much the most major model that we deal with and talk about here. So this is another interesting storm system behind it. It's like 1, 2, 3, just a lot of storm after storms after storms. But a big Arctic blast showing up here on the GFS, classic Arctic blast here. You can see this is moving right down into the Midwest. But at the same time, look at this. You've got a Clipper system, and that's going to be moving also in the traditional direction, which is right towards the northeast. But this high pressure that is stationary here, well, it's actually weakening because it's feeling this. This high pressure is not taking over this because it's more far away. So if this actually weakens because this Clipper system has enough energy, that could allow this Clipper system to actually not only bring lake effect snow to many areas, but this could actually become its own big system. Well, what does it do? Well, it gets stronger, takes away that high pressure, and it meets up with some energy and some precipitation out there in the southeast. That's going to be a recipe for a big storm system, but will it get that strong and will it form early enough? Well, what we see on the GFS, we see a massive system, but it's just offshore, so it's just too late. That's the good scenario. This is good because we don't want to see a storm system like this entering the United States. All right, but we see up there in into northern Maine and really southern Maine, a lot of heavy precipitation, including snow for those areas up north. Nova Scotia getting battered. I mean, man, this is really showing an incredible storm system right around December 1st. But wow, I mean, that's a very bad. This is a worst case scenario for Nova Scotia. I don't want to get into specifics, but I mean what you're seeing here is for some areas of Nova Scotia and Maine a full out blizzard. And that something like that would really drop feet of snow. I mean, a 975 millibar superstorm or whatever you want to call it, really. And then another interesting thing is we do have another Arctic blast. So we're getting into this pattern, this active pattern with dips and hails up in the jet stream and big Arctic blasts. Look how far south this is getting. We're seeing below average temperatures reaching all the way down towards the South Carolina North Carolina border. So we are really let me get rid of that arrow, but we're really starting to see some really big dips in the jet stream. I mean, I don't think we've seen. I mean, I know this is very far out, but if this actually turns out to be something that we could be dealing with, this could be maybe the first, the farthest south that any Arctic blast has gotten so far this year. All right, but what happens behind it? Well, another system starts to come up from the Gulf, and this is where we could actually be dealing with now not only just a active pattern, but we could actually get a kickstart to our secondary severe weather season, because unfortunately we do see another full-on severe weather event showing up here. I mean, this is very far out. This is going to change. This really doesn't look that reliable because it's showing snow in North Carolina and South Carolina. So that tells you that this is unreliable, because you almost never see snow in early December in the Carolinas. That is just out of the ordinary. But that takes us all the way to the end of this model run. All right, so we just see a very active stretch of weather here. We look at the 12Z. I'm gonna run through this fast here just because I don't want to take it that much time. Well, we see pretty much the exact same thing showing up on the 12Z as the 18Z for our first system after our trough that we're currently dealing with now moves through. Okay, it shows this a little earlier, so we're getting to the 22nd. So this is Wednesday of next week. Okay. Here comes that same plume of moisture coming up from the Gulf, and it's meeting up with that same system in the northwest. This run of the GFS shows a little bit of a bigger system here. A lot of snow up here on the north. Pretty good shield of snow on the backside, meeting up with another small piece of energy that's trying to attach to it, and then a pretty nasty, very nasty ice storm, snowstorm for the interior northeast. But again, southern New England still not cold enough to see snow from that system. Okay, that's what the 12Z says. Look at this snow on the backside. I mean, this is very interesting to see here. Look how calm we are in the United States. Okay, this is, if you're looking for now let me put this back here. If you're looking for just a completely plain and completely dry and just boring winter pattern, this is what you get here. Okay, you can literally see that all of the northern U.S. is below average for your temperatures. It's supposed to be cold in the north and it's warm in the south. But look at this. This is the big attraction. 1034 millibar high pressure. That is very high pressure, and that's dominating the central U.S. based off the 12Z. When you see something like this in the central U.S., and it's a high pressure system, it's very strong. This is what we call a stationary high. This is stationary, meaning that it doesn't move often, and it's going to take a long time for this to weaken. So when it does move, it doesn't move that far away from where it used to be. It's stationary. It stays there a lot. But once we get a little bit of a tweak or disturbance in the jet stream, that's where this thing can get kicked out, and that allows more storms to develop and enter the United States. Another system around the 30th. All right, not that big, but on the backside, we get a very big system. This is a big plume of moisture spreading all the way throughout the eastern U.S. And let me tell you guys, if this can organize to a system, this is going to be something we're going to have to watch. This is one of many wild different scenarios showing up on the GFS 372 hours out. But for the heck of it, what does it show? Well, it shows a monster system, snow on the north side, on the south and central side of the storm. There is a lot of rain. Okay, and then a potentially very big system here in the northwest. Look at all of that rain and snow. But that's based off the GFS as of today. We look at the 18Z. I'm just gonna literally run through this really fast. What does the 18Z show? Well, it shows the same thing, but this is a more this is one of the more active scenarios that we've seen off the GFS. So far, we see a huge Arctic blast here. I mean, this is gigantic here, and we get a huge dip in the jet stream. Look how close these isobars are. This is basically these little black lines here. When they're really close, that signifies very strong winds. These isobars. They stand for that they show the wind stream. Okay, but this is what we've got going on, and we've got this 20 seconds, so the same scenario as the 12Z of today was showing. But man, that is a giant system really getting going across the Northeast. That's 150 hours out, so I mean that's not that far away, but it's definitely got a lot of time to change. So that's one of the more worst case. I guess that would be a worst case scenario. Anything else on the backside? Well, we get another system. A ridiculous dip in the jet stream. We're getting all the way down to Texas, North Texas to North Louisiana. I mean, that is incredible. That how far south that Arctic blast gets. And then that's pretty much it from the 18Z, the 12Z from yesterday. All right. Shows that same system. So really, it doesn't look like we're going to avoid the system moving into the Northeast. Well, it shows that a lot later, almost all the way to Thanksgiving. That's when this storm system should be entering the Northeast. This storm system is delayed by a few days, but we get still another major system, big severe weather event possibly in the Southeast. That moves up into the Northeast, another wintry mix. And just a lot of storm system in general. We always end with the same picture of, this big storm system with a lot of rain and snow, for the eastern U.S. So, there's just a lot of wild scenarios showing up on the GFS, and then we'll go over to the European model. So that was the GFS from the 18Z and 12Z of today and yesterday. So we look at the European model. Okay, this is a website. This is Model Map. So I'm changing websites just because the other website I use, Tropical Tidbits, it doesn't show the European model that shows rain and snow. Okay, so that's why I'm just looking at this one. So starting out here, you can see this was actually the 12Z of today. The 18Z actually didn't. I think the 18Z is actually delayed a few hours because I think the European is having some issues today. But we look at the 12Z. Well, what does it show? It shows that same system here, that same trough digging down into the Northeast. Okay, that moves out. All right, this run of the European model shows 84 hours to get this thing out and then into this big system into Nova Scotia in Maine here, where we're seeing 981, a big system moving right up into that region, showing a little bit more rain for areas based off the European model. But if you're up north, it looks like you'll see more snow from that. All right. Well, what's going to happen behind that? Well, here's your second developing system. This is the one that the GFS wasn't really making that strong. Well, the 12Z European model shows a very strong system. I mean, look at this, 983, which is one of the stronger systems you'll see this fall. Moving into the Northeast. I don't know why I turned off my camera there. I did not mean to do that. But yeah, 983 millibar storm system. That's very, very big. A lot of rainfall into the Northeast. Look at all this. Southern New England getting in on a lot of rain. 186 hours out. So this would be Wednesday the 6th. Wednesday the 22nd. All right, so this is I believe this is 2 days before Thanksgiving. All right, this is going to snarl that travel because everybody is on the road really at this point here because everyone wants to get to the relative's house a day before Thanksgiving. And so if this were to happen here, this would be that worst case scenario that everyone's worrying about. Okay, so this is really not good that the European is showing this, and then it shows some heavy snow on the backside. Then it shows a pretty calm pattern with some weak pieces of energy kind of floating around there, but not really doing anything else. So that's going to take care of the European model and the GFS model for upcoming systems. We look at the current SPC outlook. I wanted to show you guys this because we are actually seeing a pretty substantial threat for severe weather. We're taking this out 3 days. This is valid for Sunday to Monday of next week. All right, and so we see a marginal risk for severe weather out there, including portions of central Oklahoma down into north central Texas. All right, this is 3 days out, so this will most likely be updated to a slight risk at least. We could even see an enhanced risk. I don't want to get there too fast though. Okay, so I'm just spitting out some things too early. I just want to say that because this is still 3 days out, it still has time to change. All right, we go to the day 4 outlook. This is where we could actually be dealing with a severe weather event. Okay, keep this solid here. We see on the day 4 outlook a 15% chance of severe weather. That is at least a slight risk for severe weather. This is 4 days out, but we already have a slight risk. So that's just showing how much confidence we have in the forecast already that we could have a severe weather event. I don't want to say outbreak, but an event. All right, and so yeah, it just looks like that because we're going to get some big pieces of energy moving down throughout the central U.S., as well as that Gulf moisture surging into the southeast. That's where we could get the recipe for severe weather, really engulfing portions of northern and central Louisiana into Mississippi, and then East Texas, Texarkana into Arkansas. That whole area, really in general, is in the threat for severe weather. All right, so we'll continue watching this, and I'll keep you guys updated this weekend over how this continues to change and stuff. But we go over back to the GFS. Now looking at our current temperature anomalies based off the 18Z. So this is your trough here. It's pretty weak. Again, you don't really have that much cold air on the backside, but it's still able to push that warm air, that very warm air. We're ranging from anywhere from 6 to really 12 degrees above historical average to push that off to the Atlantic. A big ridge going on here in the west. All right, and then we get a little bit of a cool down in the east, but that drastically changes. We see a big area of below average temperatures starting to show up here in the southwest and the central U.S. That's going to split this warm air in two. This is where you could get that. Severe weather event, because you can see here these two stripes of above average temperatures. Well, that's going to be pressing up against this cold air, and so that's the area that we're talking about that was highlighted, where we see right here into Texas and Oklahoma and Kansas. Well, that's that first area. Then our secondary area is going to be up here because we've got those two main areas where that cold air and that warm air meet. Okay, I don't know. I wouldn't say personally that I think that this is going to be a huge severe weather event because this really doesn't look like that organized, and it doesn't look like this. It doesn't look that strong. If this cold front were more substantial and it were more strong, and then this warm front were more it was just more organized in general, I think that's where we could have the bigger threat for severe weather. But I'm not a professional. I'm a kid. The forecasters at the Storm Prediction Center know a lot more than me, so I'm going to stick with what they're saying. But personally, I think that this could be a little bit over-exaggerated, if you know what I mean there. But a lot of cold air hanging on in the northeast. That warmer is most likely going to replace it. And it tries to, but another big Arctic blast showing up here, coming down. You can see this dip in the jet stream, and this cold air is moving down like that. You can see these pinks and these purples. That's where we could get anywhere from 6 to 12 degrees below our historical average. That makes it to the northeast. We're really all over the place for the most of this model run. We are not organized at all at this point. We're still 192 hours out. We're still not organized at some point here. Just a lot of warm air, cold air. It's pretty much scattered in the United States. So this is going to be one of those times where it's very hard to forecast. This is going to be one of those times where these storm systems are just not easy to deal with. But this goes out 384 hours to that. We're stopping at that same storm system I was showing there, talking about in the southeast. This is a recipe for severe weather. You get a very odd plume of moisture that the thing that's odd about it is that it brings temperatures down very drastically, and we got very warm air coming up here in the central US. So if these two air masses collide, that's going to be a recipe for severe weather. So we look at the GFS model for our current projected snowfall totals. This actually glitched because the 18Z is fully loaded. I don't know why it's saying it's not loaded, but we'll just take this out as far as we can. So from now to December 1st, these are our current projected snowfall totals. You can see in the west, the mountainous regions, a lot of snowfall, but pretty substantial amount, a few inches of snow, really for the northern tier of the United States. You could see, especially the Dakotas, we could be getting up to around 6 inches of snow in pretty much just half a month. But the big show really is out here in the Northeast. Look at this. We're talking about a few feet of snow potentially for areas farther south, because if we zoom in here, all right, look at this. You got 17 inches showing up here in northern New Jersey. This is very, very intense snow. These are very large snowfall totals, getting down to places as far south as places that really saw less than half a foot of snow for the entirety of last year. So this is going to be one of those times where we see above average snow for many areas. But looks like a few, at least several inches of snow for everybody out here in the Northeast. Southern New England, some areas getting a lot of snow. You can see out here in Connecticut, into Massachusetts, southern New York State, we're getting up to around 2 feet of snow. But for areas like Long Island and down here by Cape Cod, the hook of Massachusetts, those areas that didn't see that much, really didn't see any snow last year, still not seeing snow yet, okay? But it's December 1st. It's not supposed to be snowing that much at this point, but we should have seen already our first snow at this point. And if we haven't, then that would be considered a slow start to winter. So we look at now our rainfall totals. These are our projected rainfall totals. Now, the northwest coast, a lot of rainfall, maybe up to 4 or 5 inches of rain now to December 1st. Now we go through the west, and we're a little bit drier here, only an inch really for the entire western U.S. in general, so a little bit of a drought going on there. Other than your snowfall, you could actually be pretty dry considering where we should be at right now. But we go over to the east, and it's an entire flip-flop. We're seeing everybody at least an inch and a half. Southeast really picking up a lot of rainfall. We're getting up to maybe 7 to 10 inches of rain just from now to December 1st. And then up here in the Northeast, pretty much same scenario, 4 to 6 inches of rain in a pretty short amount of time. So pretty active stretch going on. You can see the signal everywhere, really. In the European model, the GFS, on our temperature anomalies, snowfall, rainfall totals, you see it everywhere. So that's why we're really hyping this up pretty early, just because it's looking pretty likely that we'll be dealing with something pretty big soon. So we look at the tropics now. This is Potential Tropical Cyclone 2. All right, this is or 22, I should say. All right, this is located right over, actually right in between Cuba and Jamaica. Okay, we've got sustained winds at 35 miles per hour. We saw this emerge as a tropical wave off the coast. I think this is Nicaragua or one of these Central America coastlines. Well, now it's formed, and now it's a potential tropical cyclone expected to become a tropical storm after it moves past the Bahamas here. All right, but we've got sustained winds at 35 miles per hour. This is very close. This is right on the brink of becoming a low-end tropical storm. It's moving northeast pretty swiftly at 17 miles an hour, okay? So we look at our current projected cone here. All right, you can see that it's expected to strengthen as a tropical depression as we get into tomorrow. Then 1 p.m. tomorrow is where we see this tropical storm status here. It's looking like that this will really just go out to sea, but I think that according to the GFS and the European model, that this could kind of take a path like this, and it could start curving north because we saw that big superstorm. Well, you can't really get a superstorm from just a weak trough, so there's got to be something out there in the Atlantic to help that out. That is exactly what we have here. So I think that this cone will shift. I think it should shift slightly to the west, because we have been consistently seeing for a few days straight the GFS and European model agreeing both on a very intense storm system hitting Nova Scotia and Maine. All right, but you can see on the coastline of Haiti, we do have tropical storm watches here going all the way up and down the coastline. But Bermuda, for now, you guys aren't in the cone in the path of this, but this could definitely change. But this is our cone of this isn't our cone of uncertainty, so we have a pretty good idea of where this thing's going for now. But I think that this could change. So look at our current rainfall potential. This is a cool graphic that is actually new from the National Hurricane Center. So taking a look here at our areas that are getting impacted now. So this is a very intense, this is going to be a very intense flooding event for especially these areas out here into Cuba and Jamaica. You can see out there into southeastern Jamaica, 8 inches plus locally for these areas along the coastline. And if you're farther to the northwest, you'll see a little bit less rain, but the least amount of rain you'll get is around 2 inches of rain. So that's pretty intense rain. That's pretty much halfway done. It's still going on right now, but if you look at this, just south of Cuba, 12 inches plus of rain locally. That is a foot of rain in just really 48 hours. That is a crazy amount of rain. That is 200 to 300 millimeters of rainfall. But that spreads into Cuba, and this is where we get 6 to 8 to 12 inches of rain. That is, you guys don't know how much rain that is and how dangerous this this flooding could be. All right, but we do actually have some very low confidence. This is an experimental graphic here from the National Hurricane Center. So this actually isn't what exactly could happen. This isn't the sharpest and finest job that the National Hurricane Center can do. That's pretty much what this is. But we see 8 plus inches locally out here, stretching all the way from the southern coastline of Haiti to the southern tip of the Dominican Republic. That's where we see 6 to 8 inches of rain for our potential there. So very intense times coming up there. So we'll look at the NAM 3CAM model for our last part of the update, looking at where this is going to be going here, as we see a lot of rainfall showing up from that system. Okay, and at this point, it's moving out of the Bahamas, out of Cuba. All right, and so I'm actually not sure what's going on here. Let me go over. Let's go over to the southeast. We can get a better look at things. So let's put this back to where we are now. All right, and so I don't know what's going on here on the NAM 3CAM model, but it shows this same system looks like way farther north. I don't know why, because we don't see anything out here near the Bahamas. So this is very weird, the placement of the system. But the NAM 3CAM model shows it shows the same system but farther north, meeting up with that trough, and it's gaining strength. We're at 981 millibars here, and it's looking like it's going to go right into the Nova Scotia coastline, and it does just that, brings very heavy rain, extremely gusty winds, and very heavy snow on the backside to Maine and Nova Scotia. That's going to be a big hazard that we're going to have to talk about, but that's definitely going to be a major storm system for those areas. So that's all I got for you guys. Thank you so much for coming to watch. I'll see you guys in the next video. So very, very active times coming up. We're going to be talking about this a lot. I apologize for not uploading in a few days. I actually am coming off a very, very successful update. That video ranked third in my most viewed updates. Right now, it's at 795 views. So thank you all so much for that much attention, and I hope that this video is doing the same. So again, thank you so much for coming to watch. We'll see you guys next video. We'll continue watching this active weather, and I'll keep you guys updated as always. So I'll see you guys.